Hey guys, what's up? This is Adrian aka Cosmo, and I want to talk to you about Space 92 today. So probably all of you know him. He's a very famous DJ and producer and has accomplished a lot over the past 2 years, where he managed to have several Beatport #1 hits like Phobos, for example. And that's actually the track we're having a look at today. What makes Space 92 so interesting is that he has a very unique character sound, and he's more or less the only one who was making that sound, especially last year. So Phobos was one of the first tracks that started his kind of journey to the top right now. And the interesting thing, as I said before, he has a unique character sound. And that goes along with using the same sounds in every track, or like almost every track. And that's actually really not a bad thing. It sounds a little like, okay, you copy yourself on, but that's actually not true, at least for him. Like, he managed to reinvent that every time and kind of stay creative and stay interesting with that. So his sound revolves around big steps. So we have big 303 steps, typical acid sounds, but they're really distorted. And then we also have a lot of bass steps. And almost every song has this really interesting 8th note bass line, which we didn't really see often in techno before. And that's also what we can start with today. And let's have a look at the drums here. That's kick, just a little Atmo pad and some hi-hats. And then there's a bass line down here. And I did the sound already. So it's just a Serum patch, 2 saw oscillators. The interesting and most important thing here is the pulse wave modulation, which makes it a little more plucky, I would say. It takes away some of the lows and also like deep mids. And therefore we get a really transient and plucky sound. So let's just have a listen here. So you can already hear it's like really rolling, and this echo here looks like it's not really doing much. You know, it's only 7%, but that's not really true if you have a look at the input gain here, because that's 10 dB up, and that pushes the wet signal up, so it gets louder in the end, and also it gets a little saturation, which is pretty nice. So we take only the high frequencies here, and if we compare it to without the echo, so it really gives this rolling feeling without having 16th notes. And that's actually important, because right here we only have 8th notes with the focus on the offbeat here with the velocity, which is mapped to the volume and also a little bit the cutoff. And secondly, very important, this Haas effect here. So if you're not familiar with the Haas effect, basically it means delaying the left and right channel in a certain area makes the sound feel wide. So we don't want feedback here, we just want the original sound, and we want the full spectrum and then full wet signal. We don't need the original mono signal. That's just a little EQ to put it in shape, and there we go. That's the bass line. So now let's have a look at the bass steps, right? Because that's what's important about the sound and what really characterizes it. So the 303 sound, but also the bass plugs. And let's have a look at that first, because the funny thing is, when I came up in this project and tried different sounds, you know, I had a different sound for the bass line, and the sound I just showed you on the bass line, that's actually the bass plug. Exact same patch, just some different tweaks. We have a unison here, different envelopes, and the rest is exactly the same. And I think that really works. You know, I was working, and at a certain point I was like, wait, is he using the same sound? And yeah, for me it worked pretty well. So if you have Phobos in your head, more or less, there's this plug right in the beginning of a bar after the drop. So we're in G minor. So let's just give the sound a listen maybe first. So it's a really aggressive pluck, but also a lot of reverb. We can maybe put that down a little. And now we need to find the right pattern. So it's got to be something like 2 more here. Okay, that's already cool. And then there's this other sound right behind the plug, and it sounds more like a 303 thing. So that's that one down here. Already made it. So we took the acid wave table here, and the interesting thing is the bandpass filter. That really works here. So we're kind of sweeping through the frequencies, which gives it that very growling and kind of moving sound. You know, it doesn't really feel like the sound is stable. It's more like flop, there it is, and then it's gone again. All right, so for the placement, we gotta be at the very end of this one, so we can also do it like this, you know, just take 2 MIDI files and then you can see both of them here. That's pretty cool. So I think it's right at the end here. And I think we could actually put another note here with just a little bit less velocity to kind of make the sound fuller. So let's have a listen again. Okay, so we can repeat this one for sure. Let's go like this. Okay, but now there's another one missing, and that's actually this one here. Sound has already been done. Again, almost the same sound as the other 303. So that's really interesting if you think about it, that he's using the same sound in a track several times with just some different tweaks in different positions and also different functions. So that obviously makes the whole track fit together very well, because we do not have too many kind of different frequencies, and yeah, that works pretty well, I think, and it was really interesting while working on the project to find that out. The sound kind of is the answer to this one. So we have this one here, which opens up, and this one kind of finishes this part, and then we need a counter back here. So it's got to be somewhere around here. So this is again going to be a G. Let's put it back here. Let's check this out. So the sound itself is like super, super growly, very cool. But it's not exactly the right position. It's a little too close to the other stuff. So check back on Phobos. I think it should be here, right? And then we're actually almost done with this kind of call and response pattern that he built here. There's just one more thing, and it's that synth step down here, and believe it or not, it's again the same sound. Again, this acid patch, again, just a little differently tweaked. We have some noise now, we have more unison, and it's just playing higher octaves. So let's just put this in here. It's exactly at the same position. So it's still this kind of very bassy sound. Let's check this out. There you go. And it actually also works pretty well on the G2 here. This is maybe getting a little too high, but I think in the track he's using this one. And then this one here is a little short, you know, so we're right in front of the hi-hats coming in here. And we want this to be a little bigger, so we could make that note a little longer. I think this is fine. Maybe the longer thing also works, but the thing is, on this position here, he has a vocal. I was just saying dark and repeating, and I have this here. So it's obviously not the same, but kind of has the same function, you know. It doesn't really matter for that video, to be honest. So I think like this, it's okay. So let's just have another listen here and then also maybe place those again here, right? Right, but what about the break, right? The break is also interesting, and that's because the breaks he's doing, they are almost in every track kind of similar. So he's, after a little drop to like only the kick maybe, or something similar, he kind of opens up into this big nothingness. So there's only like an atmosphere running, maybe a percussion or so, and then from there he slowly builds up everything, very linear, it's not special. So it's really just the hi-hats coming, an arpeggiator most of the times. You then will have like a bass drone in the back, which is playing the root note and maybe the fifth or the fourth. And it's really easy. And then we're 8 bars ahead of the drop and he kind of puts everything down. So I haven't done the build up yet, but we're at the point, everything has built up from here. And then the arpeggiator goes away, the drone goes away, and we just get that 8th note bass line coming in. And on top of that, all the steps. So we can actually just copy those here and put them right here. This one we don't need because this is the one that kind of gives the energy on the drop. And then, what we have here is just a pad to have some atmosphere and also an FX. Doesn't really matter for the video again. So the bass line is a little higher here, coming from like more sustain on the envelope and more envelope on the cutoff, and also a little more cutoff itself. And let's just have a listen at that. So what he's basically doing here is he's teasering all the elements except for this one. And he's already giving the rhythm, So this 8th note bass line, it feels very much like marching, You're like bum, 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 bum. And it just slowly, it doesn't even really rise the energy. That would be the wrong word because the bass line goes down. But it creates tension. Maybe that's better. It really creates a lot of tension. And one thing we might need to finish that tension would be like a riser right here, so that riser can build up until the drop. And I think, as many others, he's working with reverse sounds. So I have a reverb here already prepared. And what I want to do is just record the reverb tail. So we have a track here with resampling. There's also already some effects on there. And let's just see. Right, so now we can turn this off again. And now we only have to turn this around, put it in the right spot. This can sometimes take a moment because you need to find the exact good position. Like I can imagine it to be like this. But we have to have a listen for sure. And that works, right? Maybe it's a little bit too loud, shouldn't overlap with this one. We could actually also put a little crossfade here already. And that's it. That's how the drop of Phobos was made. If you like that, and if you kind of want to know how the presets work and how the positioning works, then feel free to check out the description of the video. There is a download link for the project file, which contains the samples I've used, and most importantly, the presets like the bass plug. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you very soon again here. And before you leave, let's just check the drop out another time.